Welcome back to the Pain Game YouTube channel. Today we are doing the prediction for Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk, the rematch. This is the end of an era, in my opinion, if Alexander Usyk can win again. If he wins, this ends the debate of who is the best fighter of this generation, and Alexander Usyk immediately leaves this crop of AJ, Dubois, Fury, all of those great fighters, and he goes into another crop, which is Lennox Lewis, Muhammad Ali, other greats of their generations. He doesn't get spoken about amongst this lot. He's an all-timer if he wins this fight. That won't even be up for debate, in my opinion. But if Tyson Fury wins, well, then we get the trilogy, and then it really does get interesting. And Tyson Fury is basically Britain's last hope, right? We sent Chisora after him. We sent AJ after him. We sent Dubois after him. AJ had 2 attempts at it. Fury, 1 attempt at it. Now again, this is it. This is the last chance, in my opinion, because there's every chance if Usyk wins, he's then undisputed, cruiserweight. He's undisputed heavyweight, defended it against Fury. He might as well retire. He's proven everything. And before I break this all down, remember, we will be live on the Pain Game YouTube channel on X and also on your DAZN alternative commentary in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for this fight. I'm going to be on a 10 energy. I can't believe I'm going to be there to see this. I mean, this is a dream come true, and it wouldn't have happened without you lot. So appreciate all of you lot who support this channel. If you buy the DAZN pay-per-view, the link for that is in the description below. You can watch us picture in picture on your alternative commentary, so you'll be able to hear us and see our reactions as you're watching the fight as well. That's a real diehard Pain Game fan who does that. So big love to you lot if you do use the alternative commentary on DAZN. In the last fight, Usyk was outboxing Fury for the first 3 rounds, put a pace on him, the likes of which we've never seen before. So this is Dillian Whyte versus Tyson Fury, for example. Like, the pace you can see is, comfortable for Fury. He's not feeling the pressure here at all. If anything, he's delivering the pressure, right? It's all his own way. And that is generally what it's like with Fury, because he has the attributes on every fucking opponent he goes in there with. It's not stressful. He's got the reach. He's got the foot speed. He's got the IQ. He can take his time in there, just like he's doing right now. Compare that to how Fury looks right there, right? He's stressed, right? And he's in the corner, being essentially bullied a bit here, and by a much smaller man, and obviously he laughs it off there. But that's part of the reason he had to laugh it off, because what was going on was he was having to really work hard from early on here, and that was one of the reasons why Usyk just shocked Fury, in my opinion. That pace was something that is totally foreign to Tyson Fury, and while he did come to terms with it in rounds 4, 5, and 6, in my opinion, it was making him work to a level which he had never planned on working at that stage in the fight. You've got 12 rounds of energy, and all of a sudden he's having to allocate energy that's for rounds 9, 10, 11, 12 early on, because he's like, I'm going to get fucking swept aside here. Otherwise, I've got to start really put up in my levels to compete with this guy, and I don't really want to, but I haven't got a choice in the matter. And that's exactly what Usyk does to everyone. He makes you work at a rate that is a higher level than what you're wanting to earlier on in the fight, which means later on, when his pace stays exactly the same throughout each round, you're going to fade. And he's going to be right there in your fucking face the whole time. And that is exactly what happened. Don't get me wrong, Fury landed arguably better shots than a lot of people land when he did have those good rounds. But he met the same exact fate as Anthony Joshua and every other fucker who stood in Usyk's way. What we do have to say is give credit to Fury, because when the storm came, he stayed in there and he kept fighting. No matter how badly battered he got at that 9th round, he was still there. So mentally, we got to give credit to him. And as well as Fury fought at times in that fight, the pressure is all on him to make the changes to come back and win this fight. And the problem for Fury is that the qualities he has that he usually draws from to beat fighters, like feinting, foot speed, hand speed, ring IQ, endurance, heart, resilience. These are things that Usyk not only has as much as him, but in some cases more than him. Now, that doesn't mean that Fury doesn't still have, other advantages that he definitely has over Usyk, like the size, the reach, etc. But that's unusual for Tyson Fury. Extremely unusual. I think every single time Tyson Fury has stepped through those ropes, he's had nearly every single physical advantage possible on his opponent, aside from like the power of Wilder or whatever, which is like one thing. So the fact that Alexander Usyk was able to clearly beat Fury in the way he did, despite being, 6 inches shorter than him and 40 pounds lighter than him, is truly unbelievable. I don't think people actually really have given him the credit for that, because Usyk is so good, it's almost expected. And as much as Fury will tell people, well, that's boxing, and God gave him the decision, good luck to him, and I don't really care anyway, as long as I go home to my family and, I secure the bag, who cares? I just want the money anyway. I'm not bothered about legacy. Although I am the greatest of all time. Fury does care. That is the point I'm making here. He really, really cares, because you don't get up off the shots that he was dropped by Deontay Wilder unless you're a born winner, a stubborn competitor who will give anything to not be beaten. But now we're really going to have to fucking find out how much he's willing to give, because he's going to have to give a lot more than he gave in that first fight, and he gave a hell of a lot in that first fight. Because I think there's only 2 ways Fury can win this fight. 1, by knockout, or 2, he has to hurt Usyk so badly that if Usyk is still continuing, he is so debilitated from the version of Usyk we normally see, where he's fresh and bouncing around. It needs to be a really wobbled version of Usyk for Fury to win a decision for him justly. I know these judges could easily try and fuck Alexander Usyk, but I mean, in reality, you're not going to beat Alexander Usyk by decision if Usyk is not seriously hurt. You can't outbox him. Despite the fact that in the last fight against Fury, I scored it 9-3 to Usyk, minimum, by the way, because I wasn't even including the 10-8 round in that. And the same against Anthony Joshua. Yet in both of those fights, one judge scored it for Fury and one judge scored it for AJ, which is absolutely ridiculous. And that is one thing Usyk does have to be afraid of. If this fight is even remotely close, which it wasn't last time, in my opinion, and they still gave it to Fury. Fury's winning the decision. He's the golden boy in boxing. He makes the money. We know how that works. But if we're talking about truthfully, Fury needs a knockout, or he needs to really hurt Usyk at least once at one point, and I'm talking dropping him. Something that's never happened before. And this is going to be so hard because of the qualities Usyk possesses. He reminds me of the bad guy in Terminator 2, the other Terminator who just keeps running after them. And no matter if you shoot him or whatever you do to him, he just keeps coming after you and he's crawling up the fucking car and that. People talk about Fury's powers of recovery. We've seen in that last fight, Usyk's powers of recovery are ridiculous. And I think the only way to beat Usyk is to be willing to go out on your shield in order to get the job done. And that is where we've seen many fighters fall short. I look back at AJ's 2 fights with Usyk, and I think you spent 24 rounds in there with him, and you tried to stay with him, but you didn't empty the clip when it was time. And that time may never come if you don't force the issue. And AJ didn't. Not only do you need to be willing to empty the clip, you need to be able to engineer that with aggression so that you create a moment where Usyk is a little bit wobbled and then you fucking go for it. And if you're left with no energy in the tank afterwards, so be it. Because if you just try and stay with this guy and box him, he's going to wipe the floor with you all. And I've been saying this in every prediction I think I've made since I've been commenting on Usyk. The analogy I think I've used a few times now is in Batman, The Dark Knight Rises, where he's trying to escape the prison underneath the ground that he's locked in, and he has to jump from one end of the thing to the other to make it out. And he has this rope around him. But the reason why he can't make it across is because as much as the rope gives him safety and he's not risking his life, it's actually the thing that's holding him back. Fury has to cut the rope. And he has to go, it's kill or be killed, literally now. You've already tried to box with him. You failed. Whatever he says in the fucking interviews, bullshit. You know you failed. The Fury narrative spinners all over the media, they're talking shit. That wasn't close. And this is a foreign thing for Tyson Fury because he always has the reach, the height, the foot speed, the IQ, the feints, the skills. So people are having to deal with him being the overwhelming force in there. He doesn't have to risk things. He did a bit against Deontay Wilder, to be fair to him, but pushing Deontay Wilder back, who has some of the worst feet in boxing, is not as dangerous as doing it to Alexander Usyk, who has the best feet in boxing. What we're really going to learn about more than anything in this fight is not the skills of Fury. We know he's a great fighter. It's the mind. There's a lot of talk about being a fighting man, and Fury is, right? I won't take that away from him. But it's only when a fighter has everything to lose and really has to walk through fire that you actually learn, really, really, really what they're made of in here. And for me, taking this belt of Alexander Usyk is like having to run into a burning building to save a loved one, right? You might die yourself, but it's about how bad do you fucking want it? Because there's a lot of gambling going to have to be done in order to win this. And as much as he's a hard man, The fear of being humiliated and finished is hard for any man to get over. That ego of, I'm a proud man, I think that actually got him to where he is in life, thinking he's better than everyone else and all of that. It was part of the thing that helped him. But in this fight, that's actually something that's going to hinder him. The fear of being finished and the proudness and all of that needs to be fucked off. He has to kill his ego and accept, I may be humiliated here, but it's the only way I'm going to get this job done is by risking it all. Calculatedly. I'm not saying stupidly, but when the time comes, he's going to have to do it. And this is why I do give credit to Anthony Joshua. When he met his maker in that Daniel Dubois fight, and Daniel Dubois was matching him, there was only one way he felt he could get the job done, and that's if he rolled the dice and went for it. And he went out on his shield, but it proved that he was willing to kill or be killed. He showed what he was made of inside. Fury's going to have to do something similar in this fight, but in a more calculated way. And the reason I'm saying this is when you look at that last fight, if we're being brutally honest and cut through the shit and the narrative online, the last effective and dangerous round where Fury looked like he could hurt Alexander Usyk was round 6. Every single round after that, Usyk was beating him. And Usyk remained a threat to knocking him out much later in the fight. In round 7, I showed you in my round-by-round breakdown, his feet were slowing down, his hands started dropping more in round 8, he was paying the price for that more in round 9, it got even worse. Fury was spent as a threat by round 7. Now, they should be looking at that and going, right, well, we're 20 stone. We're not 16 stone. Just like AJ was ranting and raving about after he fought Usyk. Well, then use it to your advantage then. Look at this like a 6-round fight and put him in a world of hell knowing that I'm going to spend my 12 rounds of energy by 6 rounds and I'm going to go for it and I'm going to be willing to die in there. Not literally, but you get the point. Because the reality is, in that last fight, while Usyk took a good shot from Fury and a few good shots, at no point did he look like really like, oh, fucking hell. He didn't look even close to fucking going down, ever. And that's the thing that people dress up and they don't acknowledge, man. Just because Fury was looking good. At no point did Usyk look like going down. And it's going to take that in order to get this done. And I'm not saying that's easy. Fuck me, is it? Do you know what I mean? The guy's never been dropped before. But you have to nail this fucker to the ground in order to stop him. And Fury's been down plenty of times. And when he was in there with Usyk, even still, he was hurt worse than he'd ever been by Deontay Wilder. I mean, he was further removed from his consciousness and more like all over the place and damaged than Wilder ever made him. Every single time he got up off a Wilder shot, he had his legs underneath him. His legs were gone in that Usyk fight. And it was for the reason I said in my last prediction video about this fight. Alexander Usyk will drop Tyson Fury, not because he's the hardest hitter ever, but because he's going to hit him more than he's ever been hit before in his life. And now, a word from our sponsors. I don't know about you, but I am sick to death of spam emails, calls from numbers I don't recognize, and random letters through the post. It does me head in. And I've been wondering, like, how do these people even get our information? Well, I've done a bit of research, and it turns out the answer is data brokers. There's actually an entire market out there where these data brokers just buy your information. I'm talking your name, your age, your financial information, your email address, your actual address. It's insane. And because of all these data breaches you hear about in the news, the amount of data on offer for these people to purchase about us increased last year by 72%. And because of this, these cyber criminals can actually just take out a loan in someone's name with their address and they won't even know about it. And this is how mental it's gotten. Because of AI, these people can mimic other people's voices, call people up, and trick them out of money. And the way to stop all of this is actually through today's sponsor, Incogni. They reach out to these data brokers on your behalf and make sure that your data is removed from their database. And once you're with Incogni, it will continue to scour the internet and continue to make sure that your data stays removed. So you get that continuous protection. All you have to do is click the link in the description below, sign up to Incogni, and tell them whose data you'd want removed. You then give them permission to work on your behalf to protect you. Then you kick back, let Incogni do its thing, and they will consistently update you as your data is being removed. And that gives you the peace of mind to know for a fact that you're protected. And Incogni is risk-free, so you can try it for 30 days, and if you don't think it's for you, you can get a free refund. If you want to look after yourself, you know what to do. Click the link in the description below, go to incogni.com/paingame and use our code PAINGAME, that's block capitals, all one word, PAINGAME, for 60% off the annual plan. So a big love to Incogni for looking after us, but for now, enjoy the video. And there's been a lot of excuses made for Tyson Fury about why he wasn't able to do it because of the loving that goes on online. First one, he wasn't fit enough. Tyson Fury was so fit in that fight, it was ridiculous in my opinion. Like, Francis Ngannou was the perfect wake-up call for him. Then he had a full training camp, then he got the cut, then he had another full training camp. When he turned up, he threw over 100 punches more, well over, than he was throwing in the fights against Deontay Wilder, which is, you know, historically some of his best performances. So you're telling me one of the fittest versions of Fury we've ever seen against Wilder, he throws 100 punches more than that, and he's still not fit enough. Right. Okay. Fury is one of the fittest heavyweights ever, in my opinion. Naturally, he has an unbelievable engine. And for 20 stone or whatever he is, it's a joke. It shouldn't even be possible what he can do at that weight. The issue is, he's in there with a guy who at cruiserweight, which, you know, have better fitness generally than heavyweights, I think that's generally accepted, was the fittest cruiserweight in the world. And now he's the fittest heavyweight in the world. It's just who you're in with. Like, there's only so fit someone can be at 20 stone before you have to bring the weight right down. So, you know, can Fury get fit up? Maybe a tiny bit, but like, I think he was extremely fit in that fight. And that showed when he did get walloped all over in round 9, and he still stayed in there and still finished the fight. Credit to him. That proves his training was on point for this fight. The sparring, technically, maybe that could have been a bit better because of the cut that he was nursing. And maybe that'll help him with his timing in this fight. And maybe that'll help him with other things. But his fitness, man, was good. Another thing they said was he showboated too much. I really don't have a problem with the showboating. I don't think he did it so much that it was energy draining. I think it was very much a psychological advantage for him that he was trying to regain his spirits as he was getting pulverized at times in there and make light of what was going on and so show the judges, I'm fine, don't worry about it, and a bit of kidology. I think when Fury's being Fury is when he's at his best, and I thought he fought one of his best fights of his life in this fight, which is why it must be even harder for him to think, fuck me, how am I going to beat this guy? Some people said he was winning every round until he got caught. I mean, that's just absolute bullshit. I'm not even going to dignify that. And other people are saying that he needs to be heavier in this fight. This is a tricky one for me, because I am saying he should do a kamikaze mission, but it's got to be smart and thought out, and they know Fury's body better than anyone. And when you've seen, you know, he put that weight on and he went in there and bullied Deontay Wilder going backwards, you know, he had 2 left feet, man. Usyk going backwards is like a ballet dancer. So while the extra power might come in that extra 10 pounds or whatever, and that might hit, that one shot you land, that extra 10 pounds may just be enough to really hurt Usyk in a way you couldn't last time. It's also going to mean that your feet get slower, quicker, and more tired. And look, given the mission that I'm saying he should go on, maybe that might work. But I don't think Fury looked bad last time. I think he just needs to be, game plan-wise, a little bit different and a little more aggressive. And I don't think that he needs the extra weight, because the foot speed of Fury is actually brilliant in that fight. It's just he's in there with someone who's too good. But in the first 6 rounds, he looked good. And that's exactly what he needs, in my opinion, if he is going to win this. I don't think he's winning it in the second half of the fight. Unless he clips him early and it drags on and then he clips him again later or something like that. The point is he's got to punish Usyk. And look, to make some suggestions for what Fury needs to do to beat Usyk, it is like telling Elon Musk how to make cars, right? Like, these are both geniuses in the boxing ring, and particularly trying to figure out Alexander Usyk, who's never even been dropped before, is one of the hardest puzzles to solve in boxing. So the first thing Fury is obviously going to need to do is look at fucking tape, and he's need to watch that fight back 1,000,000 times over and start memorizing some of the patterns of movement that Usyk uses, because he's very unpredictable when you're in there with him. And now that you've been in there, you're going to have a better chance, in my opinion, because AJ did look better in the second fight against him. He was less overwhelmed. AJ was completely outclassed in that first fight, but then he adjusted a bit better in that second fight, even though I don't think he won that many more rounds. You've got to memorize the patterns of he does this, then he does that. He does this, then he does that. You've got to go through that 1,000,000 times over in your head so that it's second nature, so that you recognize it when you're in the fucking ring with him. This is the biggest exam of Fury's life, and he needs to revise for it more than any fight he's ever studied for in his life. Last time, Fury started on the back foot. He wasn't prepared for that. I don't think he was sparring on the back foot. I don't think he expected Usyk to push him back so quickly, so easily. Now he knows that's coming, and he needs to be ready for it. He needs to not let Usyk start as fast as what he did last time and be a bit, whoa, what the fuck? He needs to meet him and start fast himself. You're not going to win the later rounds anyway. Even if you do go on the back foot, it doesn't matter. And when he's throwing, you've got a better chance of catching him. And if he's getting active early, you got to be thrown with him. One of the main reasons I think Usyk found it so easy to push Fury back last time was the jab that was coming from Fury. It wasn't threatening. It wasn't with authority. It was this flick jab and a stiff arm that Usyk could just pivot inside or outside and get in and get his work off, no problem. The thudding jab from a big 6'9" bloke like Fury, although it's going to be hard to target the head because, you know, Usyk it's like a fucking pendulum, innit? You've got to try and stamp some authority out with that jab early on, in my opinion. Use multiple different jabs that he's got plenty to draw from, but at least one or two hard ones that make him think, fucking hell, and reset a bit, and then give you a chance to come into the middle. Because once Usyk gets in that rhythm, it's very hard to disrupt it. So you've got to be disrupting it from the get-go. Don't let him build up that confidence. Easier said than done. Everything I'm saying, you could do it all perfectly and still lose. I think one of the big mistakes Fury made was being too relaxed as Usyk was on the inside. I don't think he really fully respected the power that Usyk was going to bring, especially in the later rounds. And I get you're getting tired, your guard's dropping, your feet are slowing down, you're allowing him into range more. But if he does come into range, that guard needs to be airtight. Because it's funny, being a big lad myself, when you spar, you know, some smaller guys or whatever, the first few rounds, you're thinking, fuck me, this is nothing. You know, even if you're getting hit, it doesn't feel like a lot. But later on, like, they start singing a bit more and you're like, all right, I'm feeling this now. My legs are getting tired. Fucking hell. And Usyk's power, it's not going to drain like another fighter is, right? It might not be as one shot as Deontay Wilder, but it stays throughout the fight. So his defense needs to be really, really good in this fight. No complacency. Hands up when he's coming into range. When you're out of range, throwing like, you know, from your waist, it's not a big deal. But sometimes he was trying to do that when they were fucking right up close and leaving his chin wide open and not throwing from here, but throwing from down here. And it's like, what do you think is going to happen, mate? You know this. And one of the things that helped Fury get control of this fight at one point was the body shots. And look, I've slowed it down. I've had a look. There's a lot of them that were on the belt, right? There was a bit dodgy. There was things where he was stepping on Usyk's feet even, I think, at one point. I was like, fucking hell. Every trick in the book from the Gypsy King. But you got to do what you got to do. And I think you should start doing that shit well early. Not rounds 4. If you can work that body early, especially if he is carrying a little bit more meat, Fury, and them shots are a bit powerful, that could really help get him into a position where he can then pull the trigger within the first few rounds. Because he let Usyk off the hook a bit in them first few rounds. He let him have it all his own way. He was submissive, in fact. You found out now. You can't do the whole boxing thing with this guy. You've got to get into him earlier. And I don't mean that in a stupid way, obviously. But those body shots were fucking good. Another thing that I think Fury didn't use in the last fight, which is a really good part of his repertoire, is unpredictability. Give him something where he can't get too comfortable. He was way too comfortable in that first 3 rounds. You can't let the smaller man boss you around like that and expect to win a fight. And my main thing would be, when I look at that last fight, Usyk knew, I've got to go to the body early because I need his feet to slow down. And Fury's head movement is really, really good. So it's unlikely that I'm going to start catching him to the head the way I want to until a few rounds go by and I've really fatigued him and I've got into him. Those body shots from Usyk, we know are coming. And now you know exactly where his fucking head's going to be and you know when he's going to do it pretty immediately. And last time, it took him a while to start going to that uppercut, but that uppercut was fantastic. This is an uppercut that's knocked out Dillian White, right? It's a powerful uppercut. And when you're fresh, if you can go for that, when you know that that head's going to be dipping down, if he connects when he's earlier at the first 3 rounds, that could be the great equalizer because you know Usyk has to go to the body. He hasn't got a choice. And as quick as his head movement is, Fury will have better timing because he's had more sparring apparently. So he's got a chance there to really land something special in my opinion. And when you're with a faster fighter than you, the best chance you've got in my experience at the low level I've boxed at is to just throw when they're throwing. That takes a bit of balls, but like you've got they're going to be much more likely to be wide open. Usyk's defense is fucking amazing. And the one time you do get the openings often is when he's throwing himself. So if he can throw that uppercut right at that exact moment to get that timing down early, that might be his best chance. And ironically, that's when Usyk caught Fury in the last fight, when he was throwing the uppercuts, wasn't being defensively responsible. That's exactly what Usyk did to him. So we know it works. And if Fury does have that moment where he lands that big shot, like he did in round 6, right? And don't get me wrong, I don't think that was as damaging a shot as what other people have made it out to be. But it definitely did hurt Usyk. And that might be the best you get. How many people have hurt Usyk? He's never been dropped, man. So if you see a glimmer like that in those first 6 rounds, you've got to gamble and you've got to go for it and you've got to absolutely try everything you can to make sure that that man touches the fucking canvas. Because as I've said, if you're not willing to gamble everything against an Alexander Usyk, you're never, ever beating him. And even if you render him in a situation there where he's a severely diminished version of Usyk, you might then be able to beat him in a decision. But if you aren't willing to go for it like that, you can forget a win. You can forget it. And what's really interesting about this fight for me is the brain of Alexander Usyk, right? We see that he, in fight, made adjustments that Fury was not able to counteract. The fight swung towards Fury, he swung it back to himself. He was able to learn about Fury in the middle of that fight. Since then, he's had hours, days, months to figure out, all right, what was he doing well? And how do I counteract that next time? But he's also going to be thinking about what he did well and the things that Fury is going to do to try and nullify that. And he is then going to have to think, right, what is the most likely outcome of that going to be? I need to have an answer for what he is then going to do. And he's got to think fucking 3 steps ahead, but he's capable of it. And that's the beauty of this fucking... They're very smart boxers, these two. And that's why we're getting a spectacular event here. And I'm really interested to see mentally how Fury behaves in the ring after he's been hurt that badly by an opponent. Because against Wilder, he really did not show any fear every time he got in there with him. But this was a bad one. And it's a mental demon that he is going to have to overcome and show a lot of bravery. And I'm also wondering with Usyk, you've now hurt him. You know you can hurt him. Is he going to be more bloodthirsty when he goes back in there? Is he going to be even more confident than we've seen him before? I imagine he'll be fairly disciplined. But that is exciting for me to see an even more confident version of Usyk who now knows I can hit you, I can hurt you, and I'm going to do it even better this time. And logically, that should make Tyson Fury a less confident version of himself, which is the opposite of what he needs to be. Tyson Fury needs to be more aggressive in this fight or he can forget it, in my opinion. And again, he needs to be willing to gamble. That being said, I can't watch that last fight and watch so many rounds go to Usyk. Watch Usyk batter Fury, nearly finish him, and come away with any other conclusion, then Usyk will win, and he'll win again, and I think he'll finish him this time. And what makes this interesting is that potentially could be the last fight both guys ever have. This is something we should treasure. Whatever the result, let me know your predictions in the comments below. This is going to be one of the greatest fights ever, in my opinion. I really hope it lives up to it because the last one was unbelievable. Don't forget, I'm going to be live in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for it. You can watch us on the YouTube, on X, or on your alternative commentary on DAZN. The link for that is in the description below. Big love to all of you lot who keep supporting our events. Hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.